10 seconds left. Any chance it's just the boogeyman? It's just the Jeffrey Dahmers of the world. It's just the Ted Bundys. What do you think of that?
I would say probably not. It's definitely someone within their close inner circle.
Thank you for watching.
Kathy, with a C, Mabbutt, M-A-B-B-U-T-T.
And I'm going to ask you, how long have you been doing this for?
I've been doing it for 16 years, and I just got reelected for another 4.
So what is it that, or I guess, when did you get the call on Sunday?
I got the call just a few minutes after noon that there were 4 homicides, but I didn't go to the scene because of law enforcement doing their investigation first. So I didn't actually go to the scene until about 5 or 5:30.
Can you walk us through, like, for our viewers, kind of the process between when police show up and then you guys getting the bodies and doing your examinations?
Sure. Well, law enforcement goes through and looks for any evidence, takes videos and pictures of everything in there, and they'll start talking with people. So I don't really need to be there for that. They can't move the bodies. I mean, the bodies have to stay as they were until the coroner gets there. So that's what my job is, to look at the bodies.
As a coroner, do you guys do the autopsies and all that?
No, some do if they're an actual medical examiner, but we have forensic pathologists and we contract with Spokane to do that.
So in your experience, what is it that you saw when you showed up?
Well, there was a lot of blood. It was a very sad scene with 4 murdered college students.
You're ruling all 4 deaths homicides?
Yes.
Okay. And can you give us a manner of death? Yeah.
I believe that the press release was that they were from a sharp object. So
stabbings.
Yeah, we'll know more after the autopsies tomorrow.
And do you believe this could be like a murder-suicide or?
No, there are 4 homicides.
4 homicides. Okay. And when it comes to doing the investigation post-autopsy, that falls on you, correct?
Yes. It's my job to determine the manner and mechanism of death.
And then I know with toxicology results, there can often be, at least in Washington, a delay. So do you have any idea how long it could take if those were relevant to get any type of results back on that?
Well, the toxicology reports, right, they usually take 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes longer. But they might, I don't think they're going to be relevant in the actual manner or cause of death.
And do we know how long between the time of death and when police found them, approximately?
No, I don't know for sure.
Do we have any, could it have been hours? Could it have been a day? Was it maybe close? Is there any sort of time frame there?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, gotcha.
And you said the scene was really difficult. I mean, is this something you've had to deal with before in Moscow?
Since I've been coroner, there have been at least 2 other multiple homicide scenes that I've been involved in. So.
Would you say this is probably the most gruesome?
Oh, it's hard to just single it out. It's the only one I've been to where there have been 4 people at one scene. There have been the other ones have had multiple scenes.
And was anybody else injured, any non-deceased people? And was anybody else injured, any non-deceased people? And was anybody else injured, any non-deceased people?
Not that I'm aware of, but I wouldn't necessarily be notified either.
Okay. I didn't know if that was because the injuries could be similar, it might matter to you.
Oh,
but
right.
No. Okay.
Were the deceased all in close proximity to each other, or were they in different rooms?
I don't know that I can discuss that.
That was gonna be my next question too, so. I think, yeah.
Will we be able to get a copy of your report once it's concluded? I'm sure it'll be.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay, just call.
yes.
Yep. Thank you.
Do you know what the time frame for that would be?
It just depends on how relevant the toxicology report is, but
Oh, okay. Okay,
So-
so it would like the 4 to 6 weeks then?
it could be,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Just yesterday afternoon asking for more information. We are not getting a ton of information from the new autopsy report that was just released here in the last hour. However, there has been a lot of activity at the crime scene itself today. For more on that, we are turning straight to our Amanda Rowley live in Moscow. And Amanda, what have you seen there today?
Well, Whitney, at this hour, this crime scene still remains active, and it's Idaho State Police forensics team that are on site here. I've seen several people coming and going inside and out of the house, carrying boxes, wearing gloves. At one point, I believe I even saw a couple flashes believed to be from a camera coming from the windows inside the house. In fact, this afternoon, I did notice the back sliding door to the house was opened at one point today. We could see red markings stuck to the frame of the door. Now, Idaho State Police spokesperson Aaron Snell told me this afternoon it was believed that the potential suspect came through the sliding glass door, but a potential suspect came through the sliding glass door. But again, there appeared to be no signs of forced entry. Now, he explained to me just a few hours ago what ISP's forensic team is working on at the scene right now.
They're just kind of reassessing the house. They're going through it. They're looking for any potential additional evidence. They're collecting it. They'll take additional photos. I mean, they're kind of going over it. It's a large crime scene, and not that anything in particular was missed. However, it's always good to have another set of eyes go over things, especially of a crime of this magnitude.
Now, we also confirmed today the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit is also assisting with the case. They do a variety of things, including crime analysis, create profiles of unknown offenders, offer investigative suggestions, and help with interview strategies. Now, ISP is also expecting an FBI command vehicle to arrive in Moscow to provide more workspace and additional resources for the investigation. Now, at this time, ISP says the roommates who were at the home during the attack but were not injured are in fact cooperating with investigators, and right now they are not considered suspects or persons of interest, but ISP says they have not ruled anyone out. Tonight, Snell is insisting that no one has been cleared from this investigation. Reporting in Moscow, Amanda Rowley, Crime 2 News.
That scene of some foreign donor that doesn't match these young kids, it could take a while before they finally apprehend a suspect. But I do believe, though, that they have brought some type of a profiler to the scene to try to get into the mind of the person who would have done this. And I think it's obvious that they've ruled out this being a property crime because there's no evidence of a true burglary or a robbery or a theft. It certainly wasn't sexually motivated. It doesn't look like they were trying to dissuade a witness by destroying evidence of any type. So what are you left with? You're left with maybe a satanic cult ritual of some type, or maybe a street gang initiation, or a vendetta, or to quote Tamron Hall, someone they knew. So what are you left with? You're left with maybe a satanic cult ritual of some type, or maybe a street gang initiation, or a vendetta, or to quote Tamron Hall, someone they knew. Someone they knew. This was up close and personal, targeted in an area that somebody had to be familiar with. This was up close and personal, targeted in an area that somebody had to be familiar with. I have a feeling they're going to get cell tower data where a foreign phone pinged off a tower in that area, and that's how they're going to get a hit.
by the parents of Kaylee Gonzalez, one of the victims of this tragedy. Christy and Steve Gonzalez, thank you so much for joining us, and we're so sorry for your loss. Christy and Steve, can you tell me about your daughter tonight?
Our daughter was super driven. She was a 3-time Dean's List member. Her grades were amazing. She competed with everybody. She loved competing. She was just a highly driven person who had many goals in life. She had an internship that she was offered a full-time position, and we've worked with them, and they've been great with us this whole time. But yeah, she was driven, and she was going to go somewhere in life, and a great member of society, and that's what we wanted.
Yeah, y'all have to be so proud of her, and she was taken away from us far too soon. Can you tell us what the authorities have been telling you? We want to do anything that we can to help you to get justice for your daughter and the rest of the victims. What are they telling you?
They're telling us that there's so much evidence that it's going to take a lot of time to process it all. This wasn't like a pinpoint crime. This person was sloppy. He did whatever. When I say he, obviously you can't say that. That's just me. But he made a mess, and there's a mess there, and they're going to have to go through that point by point, and that's going to take a lot of time. That's why they reached out to other facilities to help them with that lab work.
They do have a mobile unit on site that they said that they're able to really expedite things with this mobile unit. Hopefully, they're reaching out to other DNA processing type companies such as like 23andMe to get involved. They have not confirmed that they have DNA from this person. They just said that they have a ton of evidence. And evidently today with the new task force, the new FBI task force on site, and the FBI, of course, and Idaho State Police, they said that they were able to pull a ton of evidence from the house today.
Yeah.
And they're processing that.
So
it just takes time.
Yeah, we've only heard positive stories about your daughter and the other victims out there. We couldn't find anybody to say anything about them. It's only been that they were givers. They loved everyone on campus. You see the videos on social media of them being so happy. Did y'all have any clue? I mean, there haven't been a murder in you guys' town since 2015. Did y'all have any clue that they may be unsafe on the campus? Was there any indication?
Absolutely not. And if they were, we would have told Kaylee to come home immediately, and same with Maddie. Maddie's family is our family. I know we're very close with them. They are not speaking out. They choose not to speak out, and they have asked us to please go ahead and speak on behalf of Maddie. They were best friends from little girls. She was part of our family. Kaylee was part of their family, and absolutely not. Our son went to that college. No, absolutely not.
My daughter was aware of her environment.
Very aware.
She turned her camera on. She would film when she thought somebody was following her out of a mall parking lot or a grocery store. She was very aware that, she was a pretty girl and that, it could attract some problems. So she was alert. She was a streetwise child.
She herself was a web sleuth, literally through and through. Listen to, which is just so ironic and just so surreal in all of it. Just very, sad for families when she'd hear about this type of stuff happening. Like, Mom, did you hear about that? Or Mom, did you hear about that? And,
track of it.
And she was very aware of her surroundings. Very well. I mean, she would think somebody was following her, and she would call me and say, Mom, I think there's somebody following me. And I'm like, well, Kaylee, call the police, and then she'd say, oh, never mind. They just turned into 7-Eleven. She was aware, and very. Everywhere. And she locks her doors at night, and she locks her car. Kaylee was home, had just been home, so we are so thankful that she's been home for a week and a half. She just bought a brand new vehicle for herself, her first vehicle. She had planned a trip. She was planning on backpacking across Europe for the month of January, starting her new job in February with this internship that she had done, wound up offering her a full-time a very well-paid position that she was very excited to take, and she was with us for the last week and a half. She went home Friday to literally go show off her new vehicle. She was like, Maddie has to see my new ride. Like, she has to see this. And she was talking to Maddie the whole time, going back and forth between the car she was buying, and said, I'm not going to tell you. You're just going to see me pull up and wait till you see what I pull up in.
Wow.
And that was Friday, and we spoke to Kaylee on Saturday, and she sent me pictures, a lot of the pictures that are online, and they were both of our girls. And they...
When was the last time y'all spoke? When was the last time? What was that conversation like? Was it just like you described?
Kaylee called me on Saturday. My birthday was earlier in the week, and I didn't get anything for my birthday. Boo-hoo. We were, she was like, it was not a big deal. But Kaylee called me on Saturday and said, Mom, I'll be home on Tuesday, and I'm going to take you out to breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it's all on me, and we'll celebrate your birthday. And I said, well, I don't know if I believe that, meaning she'd pay, but that sounds great, Kaylee. And I'll see you on Tuesday, honey. And then she sent me a couple pictures of her and Maddie. And that was on Saturday afternoon around 3.
Have you had the opportunity to talk with any other victims' family members? I know you all are grieving together.
Only Maddie's. And
it was just over at our house.
We just had Maddie's mother and father here. They were here for a couple, and it was very emotional for us today. That was the first time that we had gotten together. Just sad beyond belief, just beyond anybody's worst night. Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure you could only fathom,
yes,
but it's heartbreaking. Maddie was an only child, but like I said, she was our child as well.
Yes,
and even Kaylee, how many siblings she had, she would always say 6. She said 5 sisters and a brother, or 4 sisters and a brother. And that was always Maddie.
Yep.
Maddie was in our oldest daughter's wedding. She said all of my sisters are my bridesmaids, and Maddie was one of those bridesmaids. And it was all of Olivia's sisters, including Maddie. She every time we traveled out of the country or went on vacations, Maddie went with us. So this is both of our girls, and we will never stop looking for who killed them.
We want to do everything that we can do in our power to get justice for your daughter. We keep hearing this name, Jack, and phone calls going back and forth. Can you tell us anything about that?
We love Jack. Absolutely love Jack. We stand behind Jack 1,000%. Jack was Kaylee's boyfriend for many years. They just recently broke up. There was no animosity at all. It was a breakup on Kaylee's point. It was not, they still talked every single day. Kaylee just thought that she needed a little break. They were on the mend of getting back together. Kaylee talked to Jack the whole time she was here for that week and a half.
One of her last messages, she reached out to Jack and said, Jack, get back to me. And he didn't. She goes, we share a dog together, which they did. She's like, you need to reach out to me. So
please come over. She was wanting Jack to come over. Jack is not, they're wasting their time with Jack. And Jack is just as distraught as we are. Jack is our family. Jack is 100%, 2,000% our family. And Jack is with us, and we stand behind him 100%. We're supporting him, and we know in our heart and our minds and our souls, in the depths of our souls, Jack is hurting. And Kaylee and Jack would have eventually been married. They would have eventually been married, and they would have eventually had children together. So to say ex-boyfriend, it was Kaylee just being a brat, being like, I just need a break. But Jack was in her heart, and they were close to getting back together. And that was just Kaylee being Kaylee. So absolutely, Jack is, no.
We don't think he's a suspect.
At all.
Wow. Ma'am, can you tell me about what the mood is like in the town? You guys have been so brave to come on the program tonight and talk about your daughter, talk about the other victims, talk about the investigation. But a lot of people that weren't even, it was your daughter that was murdered. they are afraid to come on air because they feel like they could be next. Are you hearing the same thing in the town?
I don't like the fear. I want to share my address and give it to you to share with them. I have no fear whatsoever of this individual. I almost welcome him to come to my house. This community has been amazing. Every day we wake up with more food than we can ever eat, donuts, things. People are giving. The whole community's crying. Everyone is hurting. Everyone feels the pain of this. I mean, that one shiny thing out of all of this is I've never realized how beautiful my community is and how much love there is there for people. We just have one bad person, and we have to find that guy.
And yeah, like my husband said, if he would like our address, we'd gladly give it to him. We'd love for him to show up.
We're not running. I'm not hiding my stuff online. It's there. You can look me up.
Christy and Steve, we continue.
We can't speak for those families.
Yeah, we continue to support you guys, and we want to remember your daughter's legacy tonight. What can we do in this stage of the investigation to help our audiences? We'll put the tip number up, but what can we do right now to get you guys answers?
I think we need to post this timeline because it's a small community. This is like 6,000-7,000 people. We need to put a timeline out there where just random people can look there. I mean, people don't know, but their Teslas are filming 24/7, 7 days a week. So there could be somebody who doesn't realize that they have evidence.
Their ring cams, their phones, they were out and they were recording, and you know what? They look and, oh, what's that shady person? Look at that guy that just ran across the camera in the back. It's their ring cams, their phones. They were out and they were recording, and you know what? They look and, oh, what's that shady person? Look at that guy that just ran across the camera in the back. It's always those little things.
Did you get gas during the time that this activity was going on?
Gas stations. Did somebody go in and buy Band-Aids? I mean, obviously they're checking hospitals for somebody going in, and, you know, we're assuming this person was wounded. We're assuming this person got hurt in this struggle and this altercation that took place that night. You know, they possibly needed stitches or were, you know, going to Walgreens at 3 a.m. getting Band-Aids. I mean, anything.
So post that. We'll get you that timeline. You post it on your site.
We should have the timeline.
And that should help.
We have that timeline. We will post it up. If anyone that is, and it's right there on the screen, if you see something, if you anything minor, call the tip line. If you were there in that area, any little piece of evidence can help the authorities. I want to give y'all one last moment to tell our audience anything else.
My last thing is, if you have a daughter or even a son in that area, turn on a tracker app. Share that information with your family. Don't walk around that town without everyone knowing who you are. You have to protect yourself. We have somebody loose. I don't want to create a panic. I don't want to do anything like that. But we know what we know. There's somebody out there. He's a psycho, and your daughter needs to share her address with you. She might not like that, but that's what you do in times like this.
That's right. Christy and Steve, before I let y'all go, because y'all have been talking with the investigators, what piece of information do y'all feel is most important that could break this case wide open?
It's all digital information, phones pinging off of their residence, somebody's ring cams, and they're combing through that, and obviously physical evidence from the inside the house.
If you have a router and you know you're within walking distance of this address,
yes,
happened, turn that into the evidence. Don't make them go find it. You give it to them.
You're a neighbor, because if he had his phone in his pocket, his walking, those homes are so close, his phone was trying to connect to those internets as he's walking through. If he had his phone, we're just assuming it's a he, just let people, let the authorities know. My Wi-Fi is available to you. If you want to search, you know, like, don't make it hard, don't make it difficult. Don't make search warrants have to be gotten and to search for this. Just say, hey, I'm Kaylee and Maddie's neighbor. Check my Wi-Fi, check my Spectrum account, my Verizon account, whatever.
You could be the key. You really could be the key.
Yeah.
Christy.
And I would think that the FBI is doing that, but
it takes time, and if you volunteer it instantly.
Yeah. Christy and Steve, you have been so kind, and you have poured your heart out to our audience, and we stand with you and the rest of the victims' families.
It certainly wasn't sexually motivated. It doesn't look like they were trying to dissuade a witness by destroying evidence of any type. So what are you left with? You're left with maybe a satanic cult ritual of some type, or maybe a street gang initiation, or a vendetta, or to quote Tamron Hall, someone they knew. This was up close and personal, targeted in an area that somebody had to be familiar with. I have a feeling they're going to get cell tower data where a foreign phone pinged off a tower in that area, and that's how they're going to get a hit. I have a feeling they're going to get cell tower data where a foreign phone pinged off a tower in that area, and that's how they're going to get a hit.
Is host of HLN's Real Life Nightmare, retired cold case investigator Paul Holes. Paul, great to see you. What do you make of this case so far, particularly what seems to be the scarcity of information, or at least lack of publicly released information? Do you think that maybe authorities know more than they're revealing?
Well, there's no question that authorities know more than what they're revealing. But I think, as I'm watching this case and watch it unfold, I think authorities are still trying to figure out exactly what they're dealing with. Initially they came out and said, this appears to be a targeted attack. There's no concern to the rest of the public. But then since then, they've retracted that. And I believe as they investigate this case, they're starting to realize it's maybe more complicated than what they first thought.
How so?
Well, I believe what's happening is that you have 4 victims, and this is obviously a huge case. It's very complicated. And when they went into this crime scene, they likely saw that maybe 1 or 2 of the victims had more violence inflicted on them. The offender spent more time with them, and they thought, okay, these were the intended targets, and that the other victims in the house were secondary. So they focused their initial investigation thinking, okay, it's going to be something, a relationship, some sort of prior interaction that the offender had with those particular victims. However, when that didn't pan out, now I think what their understanding is that there's a possibility that the offender, the killer, is a complete stranger to these victims. And that the reason that they're seeing that some of the victims had more violence on them was due to the circumstances as the violence was being inflicted.
The details we mentioned about the hours leading up to the murders, how crucial is the timeline, and maybe how far would you go back looking?
Well, the timeline is absolutely crucial. It's possible that night, that while the victims are out, enjoying their college years, that the offender could have interacted with them or have seen them and followed them back. So that is absolutely mandated to follow up on. However, right now they've only released information of the victims' timelines for that evening. And oftentimes killers make the decision to kill within 72 hours, 3 days before the attack. So they need to go back and actually figure out, well, what's been going on in these victims' lives 3 days prior to this attack, if not further.
We just got about 30 seconds left. Can you wrap your head around the fact that there were 2 other roommates who seemed to have, slept through the murders and were not attacked?
Well, from afar, you have 6 people inside this house, 4 are killed. For me, it's where are these victims inside the house? These 2 roommates may have been a house that's more isolated than where the other victims were, and that's why they were spared, or they weren't the target of this particular offender.
Paul Holes, we appreciate your time tonight helping us understand, which at this point is really still a big mystery.
Hi, Brian. I'm Angela, and I am from Chicago. So my question is, why were the police called to the party that Ethan and Santa were at? Why were the police called to the party that Ethan and Santa were at? Why were the police called to the party that Ethan and Santa were at? Do you think that this has anything to do with the crime? And if so, what? Do you think that maybe they got into a fight or that somebody was mad at them? Does anybody have any more information on this?
All right. Thank you, Angela. Appreciate that. Brian, I actually didn't know that the police had been called to that frat party. Do we know anything more about it?
We don't know much. We don't know any of the details. We know that there are reports that the police were at the frat party. It really could have been anything. It may have had nothing to do with them, with the two victims. It could have been something totally unrelated. I will tell you this, though. Going to the fraternities and sororities today, trying to get them to talk, it's not easy right now. They've been told not to talk to the media and only to talk to the police.
Not surprised. I got 40 seconds left. Megan on Twitter asks, question for you, Brian. Do you intend to request interviews with the local, state, or federal PIOs while you're there? With the journalistic respect you've come to earn, I think you would get more out of them.
Yes, we're trying. We've got some interviews set up for tomorrow. We're hoping to get new details that will really push this entire investigation ahead tomorrow. Yes, we're trying. We've got some interviews set up for tomorrow. We're hoping to get new details that will really push this entire investigation ahead tomorrow. So you have to stay tuned. We'll have it tomorrow night for you, Ashley.
I knew you would have that the minute you got there. We're looking forward to that. Brian Entin, great work.
Also, you mentioned that the analysis unit is here. Will we be able to hear anything from them about a working profile they possibly have? And on that note, have you guys ruled out the possibility that the killer might be a female?
So we look at every avenue. We're looking at every group of people.
Police really didn't answer that. It didn't seem to me, anyway, that it really occurred to them. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But I'm joined now by former Louisiana homicide detective Rodney Demery, who now hosts the podcast Murder Chose Me. Rod, you think this killer might, in fact, be a woman? When the odds are completely stacked against that theory, why do you think that?
Hi, Ashley. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's very likely it could be a female. The type of crime, I think the thought is that it's a mass murder or maybe some sort of serial killer, but the reality is it sounds like a passionate crime to me. I think it was someone that had a rage, a certain passion to create such violence. The wrong assumption is that could be a male. More than likely it's a female or a same-sex type relationship or something along those lines.
You think a lot of women get away with murder? Because just like me, I usually think it's a man, and so do authorities.
Yeah, I think women, not necessarily do they get away with it, but I think it's probably a delay, because the first thought or the first assumption is a male. And that suspect can actually avoid detection for quite a while.
Rod, one of the things I've been noticing, and of course, look, it's the age of social media, and, girls in college are all over social media, and these girls had so much social media. They're beautiful. They've got beautiful vehicles. Kaylee bought a Range Rover. She was expecting to start a new job, in the new year. Do you think there's a potential for jealousies because of this? And that's maybe why police should be looking towards other women who see these lives that they think are so much better than theirs?
I think that's a real possibility. Social media obviously creates some sort of violence, but I think it's more likely a relationship type crime. And I think the police probably have a pretty good indication who it is. I just think they're not speaking about it.
10 seconds left. Any chance it's just the boogeyman? It's just the Jeffrey Dahmers of the world. It's just the Ted Bundys. What do you think of that?
I would say probably not. It's definitely someone within their close inner circle.
10 seconds left. Any chance it's just the boogeyman? It's just the Jeffrey Dahmers of the world. It's just the Ted Bundys. What do you think of that?
I would say probably not. It's definitely someone within their close inner circle.
Thank you for watching.
Stab wounds on the hands of at least one of the students that make it appear that it would be defensive wounds. Stab wounds on the hands of at least one of the students that make it appear that it would be defensive wounds.